But appreciate you jumping on with me today, truly.
Brandon, it is so amazing to be here with you. I've been a follower of yours for over a year now, and one of the best decisions I ever made was just taking the leap and getting into your coaching. I can't tell you how honored I am to be having this conversation with you right now. My mind is blown.
Yeah, all good, man. Well, I'm excited to break down what you're doing and where you're finding success, so that others can um, get the same results that you've been getting, right? So before we jump into like what you're doing right now, let's just give maybe some context of how long have you been in real estate? What market are you in? Let's start with that.
Right. So I'm in the greater Baton Rouge market here in Louisiana. I got my license junior year of college, and so I've had it for about a year now. I just graduated about a month ago, and I've been full time for a month now. Immediately after I graduated, I felt like I needed to take the next step now that I was going full time. So I interviewed a bunch of different coaches, and your program just seemed like it made the most sense. So here I am today.
Yeah, wow. So really just getting started. I mean, you just graduated from college. What made you choose this path of real estate sales versus a lot of traditional paths of, hey, I'm going to go get this 4-year degree. I'm going to graduate from university and I'm going to go get this salaried position. You said, nope, I'm going to go right when everyone else is going left. And you decided to be self-employed.
Right. So a little bit about that, a brief history. I've been working as a waiter since I was 13, and I just realized like if I work really, really hard, I'll get more tips.
Mm,
And that kind of carried on with me throughout high school and college. I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad a bunch and kind of just been following Robert Kiyosaki's footsteps. And he said that he got into sales first. It seemed like, I'll get out whatever I put in. And this month of your coaching program has really shown me that, that's true. I have a lot of friends that are going into corporate finance. That's what I majored in, and they're working about the same amount of time as me, but they're not building something for their future. I mean, I'm sure they are with investments and whatnot, but
sure.
to me, I like that hands-on. Every ounce that I put into this business is directly a reflection of me and not somebody else.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I don't know if you've heard me say the same thing, but my story was very similar to that with Robert Kiyosaki. I started getting into that stuff in like 8th grade. I know it's funny you said that, and that's exactly what led me down this path as well. So that was ironic, not planned, but interesting to see that those paths were aligned. Um, so now and I think it's smart, right? You're in a business where you have uncapped potential from a financial position perspective, without having a corporate business to say, okay, well, here's what we think you're worth, here's what you're going to pay you, here's what your bonus structure could look like, and it's not up to you. I love that. Totally makes sense. All right, so you've been licensed for about a year. We've been working together for about a month. First off, before you said you interviewed a bunch of coaches. I want to talk to you about that. But before you did that, how did you come to this realization that you actually wanted to get into coaching in the first place? I mean, why not try to do this by yourself for a couple of years like most agents do?
So, in my opinion, I follow, Alex Hermosi and a lot of other great mentors through their social medias. And I mean, I think I've heard even you say this. Why waste the time trying to get it figured out by yourself when you can just pay for the shortcut, right? I could have spent 5, 10 years trying to figure out what I've learned in a month, but it would have taken me 5 to 10 years, and I put a value on my time. Why not pay to get ahead of the pack?
Yeah.
To me, coaching, I mean, I've spent $15,000 on coaching in the last year with various programs, and I've learned so much from all of them. I feel like I'm just leveling up every single time, and it would take so much longer had I done anything else. I mean, that's I'm sure why you got into coaching.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Simon. That's why I asked you, because for like when you say it, it seems so common sense, but it's not common practice. You say it's, I think Al or Hermosi calls it the ignorant tax. They say, okay, if you, right? So it's a great way to put it because you've invested 15 grand in a year. And as a result, now you can bypass years and years and years and years of low income to make a big income way faster than someone that doesn't make the investment. Because quite frankly, most agents look at the investment to get into coaching or the investment into themselves as an expense that they're not willing to part ways with. Where I've always looked at it the opposite, where I always said to myself, I can't afford not to. You know, it,
Exactly.
yeah, because it's too expensive not to do it. Because who knows how much you're going to make in a year from now. But here's what I bet: because you're willing to make this, it's not cheap, right? To get into coaching, but in comparison to the average income most agents earn their first year, call it 30, 40 grand a year. If you end up making 100, 150, 200, $250,000 your first year, it's like, why would you not do that, right? Because you've been able to fast track it. Go ahead.
Well, let me time out right there. In 4 days, your coaching program paid for itself. In 4 days. I spent 72 hours over the weekend preparing. I made my first calls on Monday. I made the call. I got the listing appointment, and Tuesday I went to the listing appointment. I spent like hours just studying the flashcards of your script. And in 4 days, this is the first time I've heard this in a whole year. The lady said, "You are by far," and she sold 5 houses. "You are by far the most professional agent that I've met with to date." And Brandon, I literally just did what you told me to, step by step. I mean, none of that. I'm not taking credit for any of that. I mean, I literally just did what you said and I got results. And that's how this whole month has been going. And again, like I've been dreaming about it. Like I can't stop
Yeah.
thinking about it because it's crazy.
It is crazy, and the crazy thing about it, Simon, it's like, to hear you say it's one thing, right? Because if I say it, then agents are thinking, oh, of course, you're just trying to sell coaching. Of course, you're going to tell me it's going to work, right? And that's why I do these interviews, because it's like, I've made so many mistakes. I've screwed this thing up so much. And that is the process of coaching. It's, I feel like when I hire a coach, I'm not paying them for their advice. I'm paying them for their mistakes so that I can avoid 10, in your case, in my 21 years of my mistakes, you get to avoid. And so anyway, it makes a ton of sense. So let's get into what you've learned, right? Because we keep talking about it from a conceptual standpoint. Let's give the audience a behind the scenes as to what you've been learning. So when you were to approach a listing appointment before you and I started working together, what was the mindset? What was the approach? What was it that you were attempting to do that maybe didn't work, that we're going to talk about in a minute, that you've changed?
Okay, so in the past, when I went to a listing appointment, and a lot of times I didn't even have one, I was just waiting for the business to fall in my lap from
Mm,
conversations. I would go in with the approach, say I met with a for sale by owner. I would tell them, listen, you're overpriced. This isn't going to work. Of course, I would try to not be so direct about it, but I didn't know how to say it. And then I would just tell them, like, look, these are all of the things that I'll do for you. I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll jump up and down and turn around and do a backflip. Whatever you ask me to do, just please hire me instead of these other agents. And you know what? I mean, if need be, if you meet with all these agents and the only thing separating us is commission, I'll do it for 4%, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And now it's like I've taken 6% on every single thing I've gone on. And on
Thank, yeah. And we're going to talk about it. And thank you for being so transparent and honest, right? Because you and I can joke about it now, but like the way you outline that is essentially what most agents do, right? They show up, they throw up, they discount their self-worth as much as possible to bow down to the seller. Please give me your listing. Please give me, I'll do anything you say. Just get, right. That's how they behave. So, all right, we're going to transition in a second. Let's talk about lead generation though first. I didn't plan to talk about this, but you said something that reminded me of something really important for maybe newer agents. And that's this belief that Some agents, no BS. I put this poll on my Instagram last week. There's a large percentage of people that get into this industry that believe it is not a sales business. They come up with all kinds of things and that some cute ways to say that they're not in sales. And I think because of that, they don't treat it like a skill-based business. So they don't work on their skills. And therefore, they never reach a really high potential, which is why I believe they got into the business. How did you make peace with the fact that A, this is sales, and B, you have to be the one to go out there and generate conversations? You can't just wait for business to find you. How did you come to that realization?
All right. So my first 6 months, I thought I was not going to be in sales. And I had one deal, right? Literally just through conversations. And that was obviously a problem. I spent a lot of time learning, kind of the real estate process and
Right.
steps, making connections with lenders and whatnot. But I didn't think I was going to be in sales. Everybody's always telling me never to do sales. And
Yeah.
um, later on, I realized, okay, that's not working. I want to make a lot of money doing this. And of course, I was in school, but I started calling, some FISBOs here and there. So I worked at Mike Anderson's in Baton Rouge. Shout out, Mike. And so I started telling everybody that came through there about my real estate business. And that's how
Mm.
I was generating leads from that point. But then I don't know, it all of a sudden just clicked to me whenever I graduated. Like, it's time to stop wasting time. And I had listened to you a lot in the past. And I love what you said about sales skills is something that you can actually build and grow on. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready to completely surrender to growth and do whatever it takes to live the life that I want, essentially. And so I basically just surrendered and I was like, I'm gonna be a salesperson from this point on. That's my job. And it again, yeah, it's
Yeah.
been
Well, look, call it what you want. We are professional communicators. And you said something that you got in this to make a lot of money. And I think that regardless of the semantics that agents play on words, whether they believe they're a salesperson or a consultant or a trusted advisor, whatever term they want to give themselves, we are in the communication business. And here's what I know, that most people would agree that high income earners like, an orthopedic surgeon, like any profession that would result in a high income, you would look at the path and say, well, that makes sense. An orthopedic surgeon goes to school for 14 years and they have a residency and et cetera, et cetera. They're going to spend $200,000, $300,000 on their education. And after all of that, they're going to start making $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Everybody would agree with that. No one would argue that. And then something happens when we think we can get into this business of real estate, take a class over a weekend, not ever invest in ourselves, do no coaching, grow no skill set, and then have the audacity to say, I want to make $500,000 a year like these other people. You've said, no. I understand that it's a skill, that I can build on that skill, that I have to develop my skill. I know that I have to make the investment, the work into myself in order to make that happen, so that as a result, you can be a person who can make a lot of money because of your skill. And a lot of people, I think, have a tough time with that. And I don't know why. Maybe you can shed some light on some conversations you have with new agents, why there's a disconnect there, in your opinion.
So honestly, I have not been talking to very many new agents as well. That's not true. This month, two people have reached out to me and asked me like, "Hey, how are you getting all these listings?" Because I obviously try to pre-sell them a little bit,
Sure.
just letting people know that they're coming up. And I just tell them like, "Listen, you need to go out and get the business. You need to go out and generate your own business, and keep in mind that." You're doing it for yourself. And the more work you put in, like we just said, the
Yeah.
more you get out of it. And I've actually, this month, I started even telling prospects that I am a professional salesman. And as such, I'm going to do everything in my power to get your home sold. And then not only do I tell them that because I respect integrity and honesty, I make sure I go out of my way to do that. And on that first listing that I told you about, I generated three other sides that are all that either have a listing agreement with me now or are under contract on a buy side, right?
It's
And that's
amazing.
just because, aggressive open houses. I got local businesses to sponsor the open houses. I left ads there. I door knocked the whole neighborhood, like everything I can. I left letters under the apartment complex next door's doors, letting them know about it. I'm not only am I telling people that I'm an aggressive salesman, I'm backing that up with the things that I do. And it's, I'm sure you've heard of, like momentum investing,
Yep.
where, you buy stocks that keep going up. Well, that's how I feel. It's just a snowball effect. And
That's
every
right.
week that goes by, it's like you get more and more and more confidence because you're actually doing what you say.
That's right. I love it. Simon, you hit the nail on the head, right? Confidence comes through action. Most people are searching for confidence before they ever do anything, and then they never going to find anything. And then, yes, you're referencing what we call the accumulation effect, that the more success you have, the more success you create, right? It's incredible. All right. So let's just quickly break down your lead generation, and then we'll talk about the listing appointment. So, because you're winning business over agents that have a lot more experience than you. We're going to come back to that in a second. If I'm a new agent and I'm listening to you talk, I'm saying, okay, fine, you sold me, Simon. I got to go out there and find the business. What do you mean go out there and find the business? What is it that you're doing from a lead generation standpoint to generate these conversations and to set these listing appointments?
Okay, so there's really four things that I've been doing so far, and I've been having tons of ideas of what else to do. But I'd say the three most important is A, calling for sale by owners. I check them every morning and I'll give them a call. If they don't answer, voicemail, text, whatever. And I go through your four steps of what it takes to call a lead, such
Yep.
as, finding their motivation, asking for the appointment, asking if they're committed to another realtor and if they would be willing to interview you in the future, going through all four steps. And whenever I have that lead, I follow up with them. I have a system that I'm kind of working on. Again, this is all new to me,
Sure.
but I try to have 3 to 4 touch points with them a week, like the Friday text, letting them know, hey, I'm working over the weekend. Monday, I'll send them a little piece of info that might help them out. And now I'm having text conversations with these people as if they were my friends, and they're not willing to go with me yet, but I'm confident that whenever the time comes, they're going to give me a call,
Yeah.
because nobody else is treating them like friends and family. And to me, I mean, I'm a very friendly person, and it doesn't cost me anything to just be a genuinely good person, look out for their best interest. And if the business comes to me, that's what I'm looking for. But then I've also closed two for sale by owners within 3 minutes of talking to them, went over there the next day and bam, done.
Sure.
And now calling expireds is number two.
Okay.
I'll call all of the expireds starting at 7:50. If you're in my market, maybe start at 7:45. And I'll give them a call and kind of go through your process. I won't open the conversation like I used to in the past, and I'll ask them a no oriented question,
That's right. Good job. Yep.
and kind of just break what the norm is for opening the call. Right?
That's
I
right.
name is slipping my mind. Can you help me with
The
it?
pattern interrupt.
The pattern interrupt. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that allows me, just that one thing allows me to have a 5-10 minute conversation with every single person I talk
That's
to.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So you got for sale by owners, expireds, any other lead sources that you're working?
Right. So now when I pick up buyers, I'm finding out where they want to live. And
Ah, yes.
it gives me an excuse to circle prospect that neighborhood. Now I'm
Smart.
providing value on three different fronts. A, my buyers are like, oh my God, nobody else does this. I've already gotten a referral from it in a month, and I haven't even found them a place to live. Two, it tells the homeowners that, wow, this guy really is aggressive. He's offering me a buyer. And if they're not ready to sell their house, Then three, I'll offer to set them up on some sort of drip to where they know everything that's selling in their neighborhood. And that way I'm getting that touch point with them every single time, once a month. And then in the future, hopefully they'll refer me. And this month, I've picked up 75 leads through that. And it's just like, holy crap. Now, a lot of those I'll say are investors that are committed to another agent, but
Sure.
now I'm sending out a list of coming soon properties to those people and waiting for them to bring me business. And then finally, is the open house. I door knock the whole neighborhood. And on one of my listings, I've done it twice now. And the second time around, people were like, whoa, well, I guess get my number because you're obviously like, nobody's ever door knocked us twice.
Yeah.
My number, and if we sell, we'll use you.
It's amazing, dude. I mean, truly. I mean, you're just running the play. And you're so coachable. You're just so willing to do the work. So you're doing a lot of lead generation, which gets you a lot of listing opportunities. So that's really what I wanted to get into. So I think what I realized over the last couple of years is I used to spend a lot of time with the work that I do with, lead generation and how to get listing appointments. But what I realized is that everything works. There's a million different ways that you could get listing appointments. Well, there's not. There's only 6 ways. But I kind of stopped fighting with agents on how they're going to get to a listing appointment and said, who cares if you cold call, door knock, buy a lead, get a referral, who cares how you get to the appointment? That's the only thing that matters, though, is when you get to the appointment. It doesn't matter what lead generation system you're using to get on those. What matters is how you show up when you get there. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So you're able to show up in a way, to your point that you shared earlier in the show, you can have homeowners say to you, Simon, we have never met with another agent like you before, and you're just learning this new process. Can you share with us, A, what is it that you're learning? And based on that learning, what are you finding to be the most impactful part of the listing presentation that you've learned that makes that impact with the seller?
Okay, so this is just absolutely insane, but it's just laying it out like a true professional and not acting like you're just some I don't know, just some random person that's gonna put the house on the MLS, like acting like the person you want them to perceive you as, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, first of all, it's going over how your what the meeting's going to look like, right? And giving them, kind of an outline and asking them, this is huge. I was already at the beginning of this month, like kind of asking for the business up front, but I'm
Yeah.
going to get into that because you just taught us some new stuff this week that immediately the next day, I'll get into that in a second,
Sure.
but so basically I learned how to break down the market for them very well, explain it like a professional, not just say number,
That's
build
right.
a story, paint a picture in their mind. Another thing is showing them like the opportunity that they have with the current buyers in the marketplace. I mean, that's huge, just providing real statistics and value. And then of course, getting permission from them to keep going and asking these questions instead of just screaming at them like what I'm doing right now to you. I'll ask them questions after every part to make sure they understand, to make sure it's okay if I keep going. Hey, are you ready to kick me out of your house now, or are we good? Like, do we
Sure.
keep doing this? And every time they're like, please, like their jaws are dropped. Like, what's going on right now? And the craziest thing is, I'm not really saying anything different than what other agents say. I'm just presenting it in a different fashion.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. We talk about it all the time, the mule versus the magician, right? It's how I think this is the hardest part for agents to get. They think that they have to give reasons on why the seller should hire them. What you've learned is that if you ask questions, you can have sellers discover for themselves the reasons why they should hire you. That is a huge difference. I'll say that one more time. Most agents go in and they try and give all the reasons on why the seller should hire them. This reason and this reason and this reason and this reason. What you're learning to do, and I think what you're trying to say, is you're learning how to communicate that helps the seller discover for themselves that hiring you, Simon, is in their best interest without you, Simon, having to convince them of it. Would that be fair?
Yes, thank you for helping me explain that. I'm just really excited
Yeah,
right now. And
no problem.
but yeah, and so now what I did with this last meeting was just incredible. So whenever I generated the lead and the appointment, I got his motivation, and the prospect told me that he wasn't going to sell for another year or two, but he'd be willing to meet with me anyways. So I figured A, I'd go get some practice, and B, what if I impress him enough so that he is ready to list?
Sure.
And this is where all of the new information that you taught us this week comes in. So going into the meeting, first I began by gaining permission to have his time. Like, are you actually going to be able to meet with me for the amount of time that we agreed to? If we go over, is that fine? And he was, yeah, okay, that's fine. I shouldn't have anything going on. So, and mind you, this is before we begin any of the meeting. I
Sure.
give him a brief overline of, hey, we're going to cover this, this, and this today, but let me ask you a few things up front just to make sure it makes sense for us to keep going at this point.
Love it.
And then I closed the meeting right when we started, before I even got into it, because I kind of explained to him, listen, we're going to go over this, this, and this, but is it okay with you if I ask you a question real quick? He says, yes, of course. I say, a lot of agents will tell you what they think you want to hear. They'll discount their commission. They'll
Overprice your
do
house.
everything they can,
Yeah.
right, to get the listing, including drop their commission. And with your permission, I'd like to do the exact opposite. I want to tell you what it's really going to take to get your house sold, and I'll gain his permission for that. I'm explaining this
It's
terribly, but
fine. It's all you're because what's happening is you're excited about the technique and you're just learning it and you've used it. It's great. Keep going. This is perfect.
okay, great. Yeah, I mean, this was 3 days ago. And
Yeah.
then basically at the end of this little spiel is where I close the meeting. I say, listen, a lot of the times I'll have these meetings with people, and then at the very end, because they're scared to tell me no, they will ask, they'll tell me that they need to think it over. And I just want to make sure with you right now that at the end of this meeting, if you feel like it doesn't make sense for us to work together, are you comfortable just telling me? I promise you, you won't hurt my feelings, and we can just part ways and be friends. And I think that part right there, even though he told me that he was going to sell a year or two later, is what closed the listing appointment at the very end. And we're going live on Monday.
Of course it is. And because no salesperson that people have ever dealt with in their lives have encouraged people to say no. Never before. They've always come there and tried to pressure them to say yes their whole life. So then they meet with you, a nice, good looking, hardworking person who's so what we call disarmingly honest, giving them the permission. You're the sales guy inviting the idea that this might not be a good fit is such a breath of fresh air for prospects. They can breathe. They know that there's not going to be this high pressure sales pitch, et cetera, et cetera. That's how you close a listing appointment at the beginning without having to wait to the end. And everyone's doing this dog and pony dance, and you've got to protect against the salesperson. The salesperson has to come up with some fancy objection. You don't have to do any of that. You have to be disarmingly honest and give people permission to tell you no. And when you do, the likelihood for them to say yes goes up dramatically. And that's what you're finding. We call that the upfront agreement. And you're doing a hell of a job with it.
Yeah. I mean, again, 1 for 1 on that so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just I'm so glad you came out with that new information. I feel like there's always something new in your program too. Even just rolling through the comments, you'll learn so much that would have taken me, like you said, 21 years to figure out.
Yeah. So this is great. So when you look ahead with some of the things that you're learning and you think to yourself, you've got these friends that are getting these corporate jobs, you just graduated. When you start to think about your goals with the skills that you're learning right now, what does that look like for you? What is it that you think that you can accomplish in the next 12 months, the next 2 years, the next 5 years? What are some of the things that you think about?
So a month ago, whenever I began your program, there was a goal planning section. And I just said, as long as I make $150,000 this year, I'm going to be happy. That's no longer even like relatable anymore because I mean,
Yep.
what I've done this month, I'm basically almost there. Like, I don't know. I think for the next year, I know for sure I'll be a millionaire before I'm 30. Like that's
Sure.
hands down. But honestly, it just keeps getting so much better and better that I don't really know. I keep like the target just keeps moving. And that's a
That's
difficult
exciting.
question. That's a difficult question. I mean, do you want like a
No,
number?
no, no, no. That's great. I just the reason I asked that is, as I look back over my career and I started to develop these skills that I would have for the rest of my life, it was a direct reflection to the trajectory of my income. It's like you and I
Yeah.
talked about, right? And so these skills that you're learning will continue to grow and get better. And as a result of your work that you're doing, your income will stay in that trajectory. So I'm just curious if you've thought about that, right? Because it's very possible for your buddy who you graduated with that's on an $80,000 salary. I think, would you say an investment banker or what are they doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some in accounting, some in investment banking, some in any realm of corporate finance or accounting.
Yeah. It might be very well the case that a year or two goes by and you're making, three, $400,000 a year because of all the things you're doing right now, which I don't know. It's just exciting to think about that.
It's crazy to think about. My girlfriend's so mad at me because I keep screaming at her about it. But I mean, I've
Yeah.
already had to hire somebody to manage my transactions.
Yeah.
I've already had to do that. So I think in a year, I mean, I'll be able to build my own team for sure within
That's
maybe
right.
6 months and then just keep going from there. And I always wanted to invest in real estate. That's why I got into it.
Mm,
But now to me, it makes more sense to invest into my business because who needs passive income whenever you can generate active income by investing in your own business? You don't have to go out S&P 500, whatever.
yeah.
No, like I can literally just pour money into my own business and teach people and just reap the benefits. And so
Yeah.
I don't my goals change on a month to month basis, but they're finally moving in the direction that I've always wanted them to. And I'm just again, I keep blowing tooting your horn, but I'm incredibly thankful.
Well, how exciting for you too. I mean, you know, you're doing the hard part, truly, right? I mean, I've outlined, hey, here's exactly what you need to do to win. It's up to you to execute on that thing, on that stuff. And the truth is that most agents that say they want to have a coach aren't truly coachable. They think that I can save them. You have to go out there and be the coachable person to actually implement what it is you're being coached to do. So you deserve a lot of the credit as well. So last one for me. You rewind the clocks. I got two more questions, actually. I want to see how you answer this other one. You rewind the clocks a year and you go get licensed all over again. You're a brand new agent. You're coming out of that testing center. You could probably picture it right now. And you see that person walk out of the testing center. They just passed their exam and they run into your current self right now. What advice would you give that, Simon?
Okay, hopefully my mom doesn't listen to this, but I would tell him to drop the hell out of college. Excuse my French. Go sign up for the reverse selling program and go make $500,000 before your friends even graduate next year. That's what I would
Mm.
tell him. And I would tell him if he doesn't believe me, then he's about to waste another year messing around with college. I mean, eh, I'm not going to talk bad about the college I went to. Never mind.
I
But
know it's hard because I'm under the same belief, and a lot of people get mad when I talk about the traditional college experience, and I say, listen, maybe that's for some people, but here's what I know: that learning how to run a business, learning how to lead people, learning how to communicate were skills that far and away exceeded anything you could ever learn in traditional education, and it's truly worth a lot more money in the market, right, than anything you're learning in these traditional schools that companies are not going to pay you for. And so I'm with you, right? So it's interesting that I was going to ask you about that if you knew what you knew now, would you have even gone to college? But you and I would probably get in trouble if we start to have that conversation.
yeah, well, I actually I've had that conversation a lot. I got a really great scholarship, and that's why I can continue just to have that piece of paper. But to be honest, I think even in front of that, I would have told myself that you just need to completely surrender to one thing and just make it just fill you up with just that one thing. I don't um right. And so like at this point, I wake up in the morning, like I'm dreaming about real estate. I wake up in the morning, I'm eating breakfast, and I wish I had real estate cereal.
Yeah.
Like that's all I'm thinking about, and it's in a way consuming me, but I'm still going out and doing things with my girlfriend. I'm still going out and doing fun things. But if you like try as hard as you can just to commit and just be serious about it. And like I said, I think the word surrender is the best thing. Surrender to what it is that you want to do, and everything else just follows suit.
I totally agree. I mean, you have to consume yourself if you're going to master something. You can't have one foot in, one foot out and expect greatness. And that's what most people do. So there's nothing wrong, Simon, with your philosophy around that. There's nothing. I used to feel the same way. I used to feel a little guilt because I was so consumed by wanting to be great. But then one day it hit me. I said, no, no, this is actually what makes greatness. This is the difference between the one percenters and everybody else. You see, the one percenters are fully consumed with their craft, and you don't have to be sorry about that. So you don't. I used to apologize for that too. You don't have to do that. It's
Nope.
amazing. So, man, this is a lot of fun. You certainly have a bright, bright future, and we got into a lot of things I didn't even plan for. So I mean it when I say it. Like, thank you for doing this for other agents because maybe you don't how much pain a lot of these agents are in. They're just struggling so badly to make this business work, but they want to make it work. And it's interviews like this that help people, give them the inspiration to go out there, take action, and make it happen. So appreciate you for that.
Yes, sir. And again, I mean, my mind was blown. I've been telling all of my friends that I'm going to be on a podcast with the reverse selling team. It's amazing to have this conversation with you after following you on YouTube and you just being, so far in the distance. And now we're having a conversation like friends. It's crazy.
You earned it. You earned it. So Simon, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.